We're live.
Just
Perfect.
just mute it when I hit start.
It's already started.
Hey, don't
Hey,
don't look at it. You got to look at our thing.
I am looking at our thing, but
Okay.
I see it live.
And wasn't that fun?
It sure is.
It's fun. Well, we're gonna wait here for a second to get everybody kind of on here and see what they're doing.
Yeah, it takes a good minute.
Hold on.
Oh, don't play it back. You know, it's kind of funny when I did that interview recently. You're like, oh, just watch it and put it the mute on, and I'm like, oh, that's actually not a bad idea. And then you realize it's 30 seconds behind.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, it's
Your background's killing me. I love it.
I might get rid of it.
No, keep it. It's very fitting.
I can see you. I did the split screen thing here. I don't know if I'm liking it.
What split screen? I don't mind it. It looks good.
Oh, us up and down like the Brady Bunch?
We could be like the Brady Bunch. I
Are
just
we
gotta look
side
up
by
to
side? You
you.
gotta no, you gotta look down.
Oh wait, I gotta look down. There we go. Jesus
That's
Christ.
funny. Anyway, well, we got a ton of people on here. Hold on. Let's see who we got.
No, we're still side by side. I still see us side by side.
Oh, well, yeah, I'm telling it's so funny. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Happy hump day. Yeah, it certainly is. It's been quite a hump we've been on today. Well, welcome everybody to Marianne's house, my video podcast, and my special guest tonight is Jarred Goldweber.
Hi,
Uh,
everybody.
yeah, I finally conned him into being on here with me, which is kind of awesome. And and I'm looking forward to just having a
Did you say
convo.
conned me into being here?
Yes. You don't feel conned?
Not yet.
Oh, good.
We're
Okay.
getting
Well,
there,
that.
but we're not there yet.
Oh, not yet. Yeah. Well, I'm not going to make you do stupid pony tricks or anything.
Not yet.
Not yet. But I will. Well, it's nice to see you, honey.
It's good to see you too. How
I
are
know
you?
I miss you.
I know. It's been many moons.
I know. Well, we do kind of see each other.
Every
You
now and
know.
again. I wouldn't have gotten the haircut if it wasn't for you.
I know, right? Oh no, Jared was looking pretty shaggy.
Oh no, it was like the hair was like this big and I couldn't take it no more. It was really bad.
Well, I've been Jared's hairdresser for 20 some years now.
Yeah.
And happy birthday. Jared had a
Thank you.
birthday last week.
Thank you.
We're going to wait for some folks to get on here. Hey, everybody.
Do people like give you questions? Like, how does this work?
Right. So, what we do is we kind of talk about like spiritual stuff and then a little bit. Well, now that you're on here, we'll spare you some of that. But I was just going to, it's just about having conversations with interesting people who, you know, don't necessarily live ordinary lives, who are going to inspire people to be more adventuresome or more creative. And so I decided that you're going to be one of my interesting people. I think you're one of the most interesting people I know.
Aw, thanks, Mom.
You're welcome, honey. And I'm sure, I don't know where I rank in interesting people in your life,
Pretty high.
but but especially, we have a unique relationship and I really love that, that, and kind of a little bit of our story about, how we met and
How we met. How we met.
and our crazy journey to this moment.
Oh
Yeah,
God,
and I
that's
want to talk a little bit about, again, our spirituality.
sure.
I want your perspective, especially as a kid, about well, you're not a kid anymore, but what it's like to, we had a lot of upheavals and things in our life, and I think it's important for people to know that your perspective on that, especially coming from that, kid's perspective.
Yeah, sure.
I remember it one way, and then,
Yeah. Well, we
you
both
know,
do. And we both remember it separately. I wouldn't change my life for anything.
right. But, I just like your perspective on things. I see things one way about how I thought, the things I did and the decisions I made, were, what was best in the time. But, again, we don't always see it from that other perspective. And as much as I like to think I can go to your perspective, I can't. And so, yeah, I want to know what you think. And I think people want to know, especially with you being such a creative person and being in the music scene and industry, that, how do you come upon that as a young person? And so we'll talk about all those things. I like to keep it pretty organic, and
That's
if
a
we,
pretty broad spectrum.
I know, well, we'll just make it a convo and we'll just, segue into the next thing. And so again, I really respect your perspective. Um,
Well, I think as a parent, like you, that's really important to have to respect your kid's perspective because it gives them a voice. It's hard to give a child a voice, and you are, as a parent, the first person that actually does that. So that was always a really cool thing that we always did was that I was your son, but I was also like more than that. It was just it felt like it was like I was never treated like a complete child.
well,
You always you treated me like with respect and as my own person. I mean, even as a kid, you are your own person. I mean, kids do stupid shit, but you're still your own person.
well, exactly. I mean, you came here with different, perspectives and different tools, and I know how much you love to talk about astrology and stuff, but we
Oh
could not,
boy.
but we could not get more different astrologically, you know? I mean, you're a Taurus Scorpio and I'm a Pisces Cancer. So, I'm more about, here's the party, and how to take, corn, tampons, and duct tape and turn it into something, which is a creative thing. And you being a, Taurus Scorpio, you're very rock-like and you're solid. And, I always called Jared the sandbag on my balloon because I probably would have twirled off without him. So, yeah. So again, having two different, very different perspectives. Plus, I am female and Jared's male, and we see things very differently. And
Yeah.
that's why I always respected his perspective because it was different from mine. And it doesn't mean that we're going to let our kids rule our life, but it does mean that I care what you think and how, decisions I would make would affect you. So I always tried to ask you or take it into consideration when I made choices or decisions. So that's how I approached it. Because I, as a kid, did not have a voice. It was like, do as I say, do as you're told. And there was
Right.
no reasons behind any of the rules. Not that we had a lot of rules, but, but it was just
Rules.
because I said so.
Yeah.
And I liked to kind of include you in my decision process with certain things because,
Well, it affects both of us.
well, and I think it also allowed you to understand why I came to those decisions. So I saw those as kind of like teachable moments, you
Oh,
know?
the teachable moments we've had.
All right.
Oh, the teachable moments we've had.
So in your wisdom, in your infinite wisdom, Jarred Goldweber, what are one of the most profound teachable moments that you can remember? That
Of in
that really,
general? Oh,
well, just in our life,
there's been
give
so
me a,
many.
well, let give me a topic and then you can tell me the story.
Okay.
Um, let's see. How about compassion?
God, there's so many instances. I mean, all the people that we came across that stayed at the house. I mean, all the things that we've just experienced, it was just unreal.
Well, if you could think of one moment that you could share the story about that was about compassion and being a village, tell me. Tell me. So we did. So what happened was everybody. So everybody doesn't know this. So when Jared and I and Becca had the development center on Lake Avenue, it was a wonderful place because it was so huge that we had 10 bedrooms and it was It was a really cool space, that we weren't utilizing all the time. So we always had room for, people who come in from out of town or whatever. But when Jared came to the point where he went to high school, that's where, those rooms really came in handy with him having friends and, parties and things going on. We always had room for everything to go on there. And it was a wonderful place for him and his friends to be. But our life was of service. And this is, I don't think people really, they think I'm a medium, Jared, and I do just psychic work sometimes.
Oh no, it's so much more than that.
Right. So, the whole point of having a spiritual life is walking it. And I, since the beginning, when Jared was little, we always did, things like, remember when we used to go to the nursing homes?
I used to do the bingo and try to make jokes. It was great. I mean, I
So we were
think
in the, I'm sorry, we were in the memory care area of the nursing facility that we were volunteering at. And I think Jared was like 9. And so Jared would call the numbers on bingo. Go ahead. I was just setting it up.
no, it's great. And like I would be like making corny jokes and being like before and after and like all sorts of stuff like that. So it was a good experience, you know. I think that and I'm trying to think of the other ones that stand out. I mean, do you remember when we did the phone service for News Channel 5 for free healthcare? Do you remember when we did
Yes.
that?
You
There
did the
was
phone
that
bank?
there was that too. We did that and then like all the people that stayed over the house for if we had something traumatic really happen in their life, they could stay. So that was always an outlet for people to come to a place of peace and somewhere that was outside of their norm so they can get out of their environment. It was a good escape and a way to reflect. It was a good reflection place too.
Yeah, and the thing that I never really sheltered you from a lot of the things that happened, because clients would come to the house and whether they had somebody that passed away or they were experiencing some kind of tragedy in their life, like I wouldn't always answer the door, like Jared would answer the door and he'd bring them in the house and he'd, put them in the area that I did sessions
It's true.
with them. And you would sit and talk to them about things, you know,
Right.
and and again we would have conversations about those things, like when somebody's child dies or if somebody commits suicide and where do people go to get to a place like that. So that's when I say teachable moments, I mean having those opportunities to be in someone's understanding of their world and then being able to see how that may not be going on for us, but we're lucky it's not, but it could very
Right.
easily happen if. And so tell him this is fun. So he's gone to everything I've done. So whether it's
How
every
many
wedding I've
how many weddings, Mom? How
oh my
many?
oh my God, Jared's been to like half the weddings that I've performed. And he's always my assistant, so he always carries my bag or does stuff. And he'd always sit in the back, and just be part of the wedding. So most of the weddings I do are very non-traditional. They're outside or they're at some weird outdoor venue or something. So anyway, so Jared would dress up and we go to the wedding together, and I'd perform it and then we go home. Well, so he's done weddings. You've gone to hospice with me.
Right.
You've set hospice with clients and had dialogues with people at end of life. The one I most remember was you and John. You and John, and you playing, him telling you about his music and you playing the harmonica for him. How do you feel about having those kinds of which appear very tragic situations so young in your life? How did that affect you?
Hmm. That's a good one. Well, it showed me what he has done, and I don't know. It just was a it was cool to have that perspective of someone that had a different life, you know? I think that's what it really comes down to is that we had so many different perspectives. I mean, so many. There were so many moments of so many perspectives in life that we were just exposed to. And as a kid, you don't, you see that, and sometimes it's a little overwhelming. But I think what was different was I was always exposed to it. I always saw that from a different perspective. So now as an adult, I go to other people's perspective before sometimes my own. And it's a good thing, it's a blessing, and it's a curse, but it's a really good thing to be able to immediately step yourself into someone else's shoes and to know exactly where they're going through from all the experiences that you've seen and that you've experienced as well. Because like we've gone through a lot just personally, you know? So there are a bunch of like different perspectives that were just from our own life, not just from others.
But I would always, so the thing that, so let's say I said, okay, Jared, I have to go to a hospice situation. And I'd say, do you want to go? And usually you say yes. And then I explained to you what hospice was, and this person was at end of life,
Hmm.
and that, they know that they're at end of life. And so I did leave it up to you. I never said, like threw it on you and said, this person, while they were in the room, this person's dying. I mean, we had these convos beforehand, and, and again, what they were experiencing. So, my favorite was, remember when I had the store down at the arcade,
Yes.
and we had the homeless gentleman
Yes. The
that used to.
talks we had.
So Jared asked him one day. Jared was 7. You were like 7 or 8
Yeah.
years old.
No, it
And
was,
this,
yeah, I was a little bit older, but I think it was around that age. Yeah.
and so we had this homeless gentleman that would come into the arcade, and I would buy him lunch. And the arcade didn't like having the homeless guys in there, but anyway, I didn't really care. And so he was I mean, he was just an amazing guy. I loved his convos. Well, come to find out, he had a PhD in philosophy,
Yeah.
which I thought was interesting. And so Jared and he were sitting there eating lunch one day, and Jared asked him, "Do you remember the question you asked him?
Yeah. What was your favorite job?
And what did he tell you?"
He told me being a drug dealer was his favorite job because he made his own hours. He didn't have any boss. He was his own boss. And I'm like, huh,
Well,
that isn't
people were
bad.
happy to see him. People were happy to see him, and he made a lot of money. I mean, that wasn't quite what we expected, but who gets to have those convos, you know?
Right.
And I never really took you into a dangerous setting till you started doing music. Okay, that was
Oh my
probably a bigger
God.
risk than going down to the men's shelter on Lakeside on some
Yeah.
level, you know? So when Jared was 11 well, he was 11. So what happened was, and this is another point of topic of interest, is what do you do with your kid when they don't have any interest? Jared loved to draw. He's a Taurus, so they're very homebody people. They're not super excitable. Jared's an old soul anyway, so he's like a little old guy, and so we tried on a whole bunch of different things. And when he was 6, I found out he was flat-footed, and so he ran like Phoebe from Friends. I mean, you were all floppy, you were double jointed. Oh my God, it was so. So I signed you up for basketball, which you did that. That was pretty good. And so we just kept trying things on because it just wasn't a fit. Do you remember that?
Yeah. We went through a bunch of things. I played football. I tried
Oh,
t-ball.
that was hilarious.
Football.
We did that for one day.
Oh, that was so bad because the coach was like awful. And then I was not a sports guy. And when you're a kid, sports as like especially as a like a boy, you're like all of it's sports. It's all sports. It will always be sports. And I was not sports inclined, and I think only thing I really did was play video games and ate chips. That was pretty much it
Well,
when it came to hobbies.
Jared had an interesting thing. Jared actually has a limb difference. He was born congenitally with 3 fingers on one of his hands. You want to do your ET
Do you want to
impersonation?
show it? Sure, it's show and tell now. So, hello
See?
everybody.
So anyway, so yeah, so Jared was, I don't want to say at a disadvantage, but he had some limitations that made some activities more difficult than others. So, yeah, riding a bike was harder at first, without any adaptive equipment or anything, and so, there it was just a little more challenging. So, when I put him in football, oh my God, the coach was such a jerk. He was just that typical, I mean, like stereotypical dad coach who he was going to put you in the NFL, you know, and you're only like 7, you know, and Jared's never been exposed to men like that.
Like,
Okay, Jared grew up in a village with primarily, you
women.
know,
Lots
women.
of really strong, powerful women.
Right. And so, I mean, not that we're not badass, but Jared never had that kind of exposure. And the men we knew were not like that
Right.
either. So anyway, so yeah, so you know, they're like, okay, here's the ball, you run that way, and so when they yelled hike, okay, Jared was like, got the ball, and he was like, and everybody's gonna run at him, and he's like, oh my God, and he just took off the wrong way to the wrong goal, and he put the ball down. He goes, I can't do this.
There was a there's a King of the Hill episode and Dale's like in like flag football and he's like I can't do this and his son goes, Dad, you can't. It's like something about like you can't play sports, but you can flee, and so that's what makes him like drive to the other side of the field, and it just made me laugh because I'm like, that's me. That's exactly who
Maybe,
I am.
maybe that's what I should have said. Jared, you're fleeing. Don't worry about, you know, goaling, you know, whatever.
But you know what? I always tried. That was always
You
something
Well,
I
you
always
did
did.
try, and you gave it your all. You know, you gave it. You know, we bought all. I can't believe we bought all the stuff and paid for
Oh,
that. But anyway,
we got the mouth guard and everything. I remember that. I was like, oh, it was so bad.
well, then I remember when you took up the trumpet. So I thought, well, try music. You know, so well, then you had that weirdo teacher in school who I was not sure about him. But anyway, Jared picked up the trumpet. It had 3 valves. He had 3 fingers. I figured this is a great fit, you know, and because sax was out and some of the other instruments. And so Jared played the trumpet. He didn't. You never really took to that. I'm not quite sure the music you liked, but the instrument, no.
No, I was never good at it. It was something that, like I didn't have the drive for. There was no drive behind it.
So then I got frustrated, and this art camp showed up. It was called Smart in the City, and it was founded by the Cleveland Foundation. It was funded, and it was all these different arts people that were doing these workshops all over Cleveland. And it was so interesting because there was creative writing, there was interpretive dance, there was you know, acting, there was all these really, and they had music. And I thought, well, gosh, you know, there's all this stuff in one place. I could try this out. Oh my God. I told Jared I sent him to this art camp, and the first thing he focused on was the interpretive dancing. And he's like, I'm not dancing. And I'm like, I really don't give a shit what you're doing, but you're not sitting home playing video games. And he's 11. And I remember now, Tauruses are stubborn people, okay? They don't like change and they make everything really, really hard, okay, until they do it and then they're experts at it. I literally, do you remember that day? I opened the door and I said,
Yeah,
get out, and I left you at the school. It was your school thing. It was at least your school, but
right.
I threw you out of the car.
I was so mad.
I
I was
know.
so pissed. I was so pissed off. But it turned to be one of the best days of my life.
So what happened in there?
So I walked in and they like had like a booth of like each thing and I learned harmonica. Now for the people that don't know who I am, I have been playing harmonica professionally for the last 12 years. So God, it's been that long and it's just weird. So I've learned from some of the greatest people that play the instrument in the country, and I attend a harmonica convention every year and meet people such as Stevie Wonder and some other people that have showed up there. But it's been a really interesting experience, and as a musician, I'm now doing bands and I'm in projects and it's been a really fun life. It's led me down a really cool path, all the way down to New Orleans, all the way up to Memphis.
Well, and it was interesting because when you came out of that art camp that day, you're like, Mom, I had the best day ever. Okay, this was not the kid I threw out of the car. And you go, because I knew that's how it would be. But you came in the car and you're like, they taught me how to play the harmonica. And I'm like, the harmonica, like all the things in the world. I would never have thought of the harmonica, you know? And so you were listening to the radio on the way home, and I think Lady Gaga or something was on the radio. And you listened and you picked out the tune. And by the second time, you actually had the tune down. You played the second time through the second verse. It was so cool. I'm like, holy crap! I think this is it. We found something that, you know, that he likes or he's good at. And so then, you know, so I thought, well, where do you take your kid when they play the harmonica? You know,
The bar.
so Where does Marianne Goldweber take the kid who plays the harmonica? I don't think most people would have thought of the bar, but so yeah, so it was just this really cool synchronicity of events that led us to. Well, first of all, it was funny because after you got out of your art camp, we ran into Frankie Starr in in Ruben's restaurant that night. And then Frankie was telling you how he was a prodigy, how he started playing when he was real young, and it just said that Wallace Coleman was playing down the street that night. And so that's when I took you over to Wallace. And the next thing I know, you're, playing at the Cascade Lounge on St. Clair. I
God.
mean, really, like it was just crazy. But anyway, so it's just been a great ride that way. But and with again, I think I can't stress enough teachable moments and how important those are. It's not
Right.
that you just expose your kids to stuff and say good luck with that. We always had a dialogue before and we always had a dialogue after about experiences that we had, and we kind of debriefed those together from my perspective, then what he got out of it, and then we talked about, I, so do you, how do you feel about that? About the teachable moments?
What about them?
Well, I don't know. I don't think that a lot of parents do that.
They don't? I mean, like, that should be, well, let me clarify. Those moments for me were the detrimental moments. Like, because, like, I didn't have all the answers because my brain wasn't wired enough to know enough experiences like that. So our debriefing was always something of me coming to a realization of what just happened.
Yeah, so it's like a backstory to the
Right.
experience. And I think that brings it to a new perspective when you can walk around those things. And then, and I think that builds tools in your toolbox for if that happens again, or when you see someone in this situation that you have some understanding of it. So you're not going out there ignorant, of things,
Right.
and so this is where I always talk about every experience is a teaching. There's in every experience there's a lesson, and I think that's what we did, was that we stopped and said, okay, why did we have this experience? How could we have, if it was a negative experience, then we had to, I would say, well, how could we have done this differently so that didn't happen, or what did we learn from it since it did happen, And so I think that just giving our children those tools of discernment when you're in those experiences and talking about it while we're together having a mutual experience, so that when they're alone and they're having an experience they know what to do,
Right.
or at least they have. How do you feel about that?
I mean, because, like, especially moments when kids go to school, this is like, that's a great teachable moment is when they start going to school and they start having these experiences outside of you. It's basically like you are training them for the outside world, and they need to be prepared about, on some level, how to get out there, and you have to be able to relay that to them, and that's really hard. And when they go to school, that's where it's basically a big practice ground.
Right, to apply those knowings and those teachings.
Right.
And so when you hit these rates of passage, like let's say 14, okay. So, when your friends are doing other things, you know, like Jared would be like, his friends would be having a party, their parents weren't home. Now, Jared's been spending, he spent the early part of his life in bars with professional addicts, okay, and musicians. And trust me, people, there was a lot of teachable moments that went along with that
Oh
about
God.
talking about alcohol. And Jared used to go to 12-step program. We'd have
Before
12-step
that.
coffee. Yeah, before even we got into that world, we would have 12-step coffee clubs and people talking about their addictions. Jared's heard more leads by the time he was 12 years old than most people who've been in recovery. And and so remember that time the coffee club was all together?
Which time? The one where they showed all their bullet holes?
Yeah, they all were shot. Everybody in the room had been shot at some point in their life. And so Jared was there. And the first person's like, well, and then I got shot. And somebody else says, oh, I was shot. And then the other person goes, well, I was shot too. And next thing you know, they're telling the story about how they got shot and they're showing everybody their scars, from that. And Jared, remember your face? You were like, I mean, you're just sitting there going, "Holy crap!" And then you said to one of them, you said, "Well, where do you where do you have to go to get
Shot.
shot?" And they
They go
said,
very bad places.
"Right, don't do drugs." And yeah, so again, so Jared's had these experiences, not from me, just not me recounting these stories to him, but like really firsthand, and it's taking him in those environments safely, relatively safely, until yeah. So I think that was a really awesome experience.
Yeah,
Nothing, something you don't really forget, and and again, driving people to rehab and you know picking up donations and doing all of those things. And yeah, I'm just you're my favorite person in the whole world.
thanks, Mom.
Yeah, I
Thanks,
mean,
Mom.
we've had quite an existence.
Oh no, we've had quite a life.
Yeah, yeah. And so, so what advice could you give to parents about their kids and interests and finding things that they like? How can you share about that?
So every moment is a teachable experience. Every single one. Every one. I mean, there was never a dull moment in our lives that we ever had a non-teachable moment at one day when I was a kid. There was never a moment that we had never had a teachable moment. And exposing them to everything. I mean, I was this a kid that kind of like was willing sometimes to take the plunge. Like when I found harmonica, it was one of those things that just clicked, and you don't know which one it's going to be. It could be wood carving, it could be sculpting, it could be painting, it could be sports, it could be anything. I mean, really, it could be anything. And any weird teachable moment that you have that exposes your kid to something new that's even out of your comfort zone, go for it. That's what I would do.
Well, and I think that's the trick is that a lot of parents don't expose their children to things because they're afraid
Yeah,
of
you just
stepping out of
can't
their
be.
comfort
You
zone.
can't be. You have to be always there. When I was taught, I went to a harmonica seminar with Magic Dick from Jay Giles, and that was a great, amazing seminar. But he always said a quote when he was there, and it always has stuck with me. It's you never grow in your comfort zone. And it's true, but he was applying it to playing, but it applies to everything. Every single thing you could possibly think of. You never grow in your comfort zone, ever. So that was always something I've taken to heart ever since. Is
Well,
that,
and oh, I'm sorry.
no, you're fine. Go ahead.
That's something you've taken ever since.
I can't remember anymore. Go ahead.
I'm so sorry.
You're good.
Well, and that's the trick, I think, as a parent, that we have to be willing to step out of our comfort zone because our children are watching us, and I've always been an adventuresome person. So that was never my problem, was doing that. But again, I had to temper down some of the experiences that I would normally have had as a, because you do get afraid as a parent. I think you start to see the world once you have a baby as a very damaged place, which you really didn't notice beforehand, and you really want to protect your child from the world, but that is not going to give them the tools of survival later. It's not the. It's kind of like when I perform a wedding, these people go to such trouble to make sure it's perfect, and if you guys all think back to your weddings or some of these big events that you've had in your life, it's not the things that went right that you remember. It's the things that go wrong. And those are the memories. Those are the things that, that we laugh about later on. And so that's why life can't be perfect or can't be sheltered from, because some of the greatest memories we've had
Are
were
on a whim, or they're
were,
totally a mistake.
or the things that went wrong. The things that were just, went south. And now it's those stories of survival that are the best ones, is that's the funniest stuff yet, you
Right.
know? Like, I mean, I can't even, we've had so many, I can't even think about like what's the
God.
funniest wrong moment that we've had. Oh, you let all the goats out at the farm when we
That
went
was
to
not a
the
wrong moment.
at the powwow.
That wasn't my fault. That wasn't
500 Native
my
Americans
fault.
were, and you're letting the petting zoo loose.
It wasn't my fault.
Goats are hard to manage.
Goats are awful. Goats are awful.
When there's like 80 of them and one of you, yes.
Yes.
They gang up on you. Yeah, so again, just a lot of teachable moments. But the thing is so our job as parents is to give our children the tools of understanding to go out in that world and be able to navigate in a confident way. So, because fear is the worst possible thing. You can't be in these moments and react. You have to be in these moments and respond. Jared was in a situation where he kind of had a bad scene went down when he was in New Orleans, and
Yeah.
you knew what to do. You called, but I wasn't there. I couldn't help, and so you had tools.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, and it's, you have to be able to think on a whim always and just in life. And you always said a phrase, and I say it to Omar, and it makes me laugh. Um, Risk works 9%, not 90% of the time, but the 10% it doesn't work, it fails miserably.
Right. And so people are so afraid of that 10% utter failure that they don't realize that 85% of the time it's an epic win.
Oh no, it's like it's the best feeling of euphoria you've ever had in your life, taking that
Right.
risk.
Right. And then so I'm one of those people where I would rather take that 85%, 10 50, 15% risk because I've had it epically fail. I've had it
Right.
fail, and your Uncle Rod talks about this all the time with me. He's a risky person too, and although what I look like I'm doing is risky, it's really not because it is tempered with wisdom. I wouldn't recommend just anybody going out and taking super duper risk, okay? Because I'm better at it because I've done so much of it. So what looks super risky to other people really isn't to me because it's backed with experience.
Right.
So there's nothing to risk when you've got that kind of arsenal of things in your toolbox. But that's why we safely take people out of their comfort zone and we have them do baby steps and take small risk. For me, people aren't a risk. People tell you who they are all the time, don't you think, Jared?
Hmm.
If you listen long enough, they tell you who they are, right?
Right. That's what they say, like don't say someone if you don't know someone's name, they'll eventually say everything to unlock like what how I know this person. They'll eventually say all of it.
Isn't that funny?
It's great. It's
Yep.
like one of the greatest party tricks because I never repeat remember people's names. Like half the names I know are like I don't know anyone's name. But they'll talk for like half an hour and I'll know exactly who they are after like the first 10 minutes.
Because they tell you where they know you from,
Right.
or they remind you. Isn't that
Right.
funny? Yeah. So people are always telling us who they are. We're just not listening.
Exactly.
How they talk about other people, how they treat themselves. All of those things are telling you who they are.
Mhm.
And sometimes we're not really listening. And it's not about just listening, it's about listening with your intuition. It's about listening with how it makes you feel, um, and listening to what they're actually saying, in a more objective way. So, yeah, people aren't a mystery. So I'm not afraid of risk. Although Jared's been like, Mom, you can't do that. I'm like,
Watch me. You're like thing one and thing two. They tell you to do the opposite. You're like, I'm just going to do it just to piss you off.
okay, well, that's from my conditioning. Okay. I had much different conditioning than you. Okay,
Oh, I
so
know.
yes,
I'm
I'm
fully aware.
oppositionally defiant. But yeah. Well, thank you for being you.
No
Thank
problem,
you.
Mom.
When Jared was little, he told me one time, he says, Mommy, I looked down from heaven and I said,
Oh,
she
no.
needs me. And then you said, Uterus, get me an egg. You were like 5 when you told me that.
And this is why it's been 3 weeks that I've been trying to get on your Zoom call.
No. Well, I'm sure you have some funny stories about me.
Oh, which ones? Um,
This is a good one. The uh the Nazi bikers in Mississippi. Do you remember that?
oh my God, I wasn't there. You're
Yeah,
up
you were.
front.
You came out. Well,
I
I
came
was.
out as soon as it happened. Then I saw you get up in his face, and I'm like, oh, uh-oh. Oh boy.
So we were in Mississippi, and it was not a good time. Uh, and this group of really horrible people on motorcycles, which that was part of my life. And they were saying some really horrible things to a couple of the girls that were walking by in front of the bar Jerry was setting up to play at that night. And I turned around and I'm like, what the is wrong with you people? Like what is this, 1950? And this guy got shitty with me. So I got up and I walk over there just as Jared comes out. He hears this guy yelling at me and I'm yelling back. And Jared goes, oh, she's got this. I got to go. He went back in the bar. I'm like, where's my backup? You know? Yeah, right? No, really. But
You're,
so I try not to take those kinds of risks, but sometimes I can't help myself. And you're
but
grown up now. You're a grown man. You could, if I died or got taken out somewhere, you could take care of yourself. So, yeah. So Jared is just finished his college at Cleveland State electrical engineer. Yay!
Yay. Yeah, and I'm working full time at a firm that makes radio equipment. So I'm working in music and I'm still doing my music thing. So it's been nice. It's been
So
a
Jared,
great gig.
yeah. So Jared took some time off to really just get back into his passion of music, and so it's not a job anymore. It's something he actually enjoys. And so you just did a live video with a friend on YouTube, and we'll see. Well, with this COVID thing, it's very hard on musicians right now.
Oh, absolutely. I'm in a very grateful, fortunate spot. And it's been music to me has been become, I mean, I love what I do, but it's become kind of a chore, a job, because I've been doing it so much and I've been traveling around the United States and doing all this stuff. And I already was taking a break. I'm like, I'm not going to do music, a lot of gigging out this year. And then this happened. I'm like, oh, I guess no one's doing a lot of gigging this year. And it gave, I think, me a good time to reflect and to kind of really enjoy what I do again.
Well, and that's it. I'm not spiritual. I mean, I'm spiritual. It's part of my life.
Right.
But there's part of this that it is a job. Part of it is a job, but some of it is something I just love. It's my passion. It's my thing I enjoy. And if it, I would never want what I love to become, my job.
Right.
You have to compartmentalize it, I think, on some level. But
Right. And you have to learn how to still love it, even though that it brings in what you need to survive, you know? It's a hard
right.
balance. It's a really hard balance. And I give a lot of people a lot of credit that can do it. And I think I'm starting to finally get back into it again. So it's been nice.
Well, it's kind of like when I was self-employed. I started out, when I owned the herb store, I made things. I loved making things. I loved plants and I loved gardening and all those herbal part of what I did. And then when I got the store, it became a business, and it sucked a lot of the love out of the stuff I was making. It took, well, plus I had you too. And we had to survive on that money. So when I transitioned away from that, I miss it. So when I get the village back, I'm going to bring the herbal part of that back with it. So I'm looking forward to, all of this stuff settling so that we can all get back together and really, do some cool stuff. And I would love to have music there too, as, a matter
Yeah.
of fact. And, I think that we need places that are like that in the world that, are just, opening people, exposing people to new things and nice people and, people who are out doing good things in the world. I mean, we're so blessed. We know so many amazing people,
No, I know, right?
and yeah, what? I mean, really, it's just amazing. We should write a book. Well, when I die, Jared, if so you make a movie about our life, make sure that Pink plays me, okay?
Fair. Tough but fair.
I think she'd make a great Marianne Goldweber. Well, can you give us a little tune before you head out? Can you
I don't
play a little harmonica? So, what
I
do you say to the kids out there that don't have an interest or are looking for their interest?
um sometimes the things that you don't expect are the things that you start to draw an interest to. I think that's the big thing because I was never in my mind would I ever think I would ever be playing the instrument I am. I would never think I would be playing this.
Well, it was really
So,
funny how you always wanted to be an architect. You were always building things, which was really fascinating. You would take cups and string, and you'd make just all these cool things. Remember, you used to draw these buildings that were things like your
Yeah.
bowling pin bowling alley. It was a bowling pin and a ball, and you wanted to make with the bar go down the middle over the lanes. It was so you
Well, I
were
think,
doing.
well, kids are always creative, and I think that the adults are the ones that kind of like take that away. I think that you have to make sure that you let your kid be creative. It might sound like the weirdest shit that you've ever heard in your life, but the stuff that comes out of their mouths is the purest form of creativity that you possibly can get. It really is.
So let's talk about spirituality and music. So, so what when you're in that place, because this was your meditation,
Hmm.
you used to tell me that when you were playing, you weren't there.
You
So
aren't
kind of
there.
can you describe that?
Some people call it the zone. I hate that term, but it's more like, and as you express that, it's more music comes through you, not from you. Like the ideas that come out of the air. There's a really good book called The Music Lesson by Victor Wooten, and it explains that all the music that has ever been written and all the ideas that have ever been thought are already there, and that it's being passed through you and it's going to be expressed through the person. It's already there, but it's the creativity
Your talent,
of your talent. Exactly.
regardless of what your talent is, that it's a divine expression that's coming through you.
Exactly.
So what does it feel like when you're in that zone?
Mm, weightless. I think that's the best way I can describe it because it's pure non-emotional expression. It's just like it's a very sacred small place. It's hard to explain. It
Well,
really is.
that's where I go when I channel. Is I get out of the way and I go to this place that there's no time, there's nothing but peace.
Right.
And I can actually shut off, and I watch musicians do this. They shut off the room
The
around
outside
them.
world. Right.
So when I go into the zone, or you used to call it when you were little, my happy place. You used to say mommy's in her happy place.
Because
And that's when
you get angry. You look like you get angry.
I know, but this is what my face does. And Jared say, "Mommy, are you mad?" I say, "No." He goes, "Well, your face looks mad." I go, "Well, I'm in my happy place." And so that's what we call the zone. This is where that the person gets out of the way to channel that vision or that feeling into, for me, I'm taking that nonverbal communication, I'm translating it into language, okay, for people as messages.
Right.
I think what a musician does is when they get that inspiration and that divine message, they translate it for you into music,
Well,
into,
and the other thing is that so me and another harmonica player of mine were talking about this about jazz, and I do not consider myself a jazz player. There are very few people that I know as true jazz musicians, and you're talking about how people choose jazz because it's the most complex thing and they just want to play the most complex thing rather than it was a form of expression. So John Coltrane, most of the songs that he wrote about were civil rights songs. Like 90% of the songs that he wrote were about about civil rights. And people forget about that. They forget about that jazz, blues, funk, they were all forms of expression that were from a place of true humanity. And playing that music technically is great. I mean, if you want to be a technical player, that's fine, but you have to come from a place of respect, a place of understanding where the music came from and the feeling that goes with it. And that's a lot to take in. It's a lot to take in. But once you understand that, it makes playing the music a lot easier.
well, and you're an, what's the word? If you're not technical, then what's the word? We were watching this the other day when we were watching that autistic kid who was talking about.
That's not the right term,
Well, no, we were talking about technical versus somebody who can improvise. Improvisational.
Improvisational, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that a lot of that divine inspired stuff really comes through that improvisational. What do you think? Can you still reach that zone with the technical aspect?
It's harder, but it's one of those things that well, some people get caught up in the technical. And Jacob Collier is a jazz artist that I listen to, and he's in his mid 20s, and he explains how his brain could think about what music he was doing, but his technique wasn't there. And he was trying to figure out how to get his technique there without losing this realm of how to think about the music and how to marry the two. And it was very fascinating to hear him talk about that because I kind of do that with myself, is I try to marry those two worlds without losing one. Because you could be very technical and play all the notes in a fucking scale you want, but if you lose the feeling of it, you have nothing.
Well, that's a fascinating concept. But yeah, so I really, no matter what the word inspired means in spirit. It means
Right.
to breathe into. And I think that, do you remember that day we were with Mark Twain in the cemetery? Do you remember that when we went to
Yeah.
Mark Twain's grave? And that's, I actually channeled Mark Twain. Poor Jared, he's seen so much stuff paranormally. I mean, really. I don't know how you're as sane as you are, honey, sometimes, but
Oh, well,
uh it's really been a great ride. I mean,
who said I was sane?
right? I think that's subjective, don't you? So we were in a cemetery in Elmira, New York, where Mark Twain is buried. And Mark Twain came through and he said the most profound thing I think I've ever channeled. And he said that the challenge with creative people is that they think that that creative thing comes from them when actually it's coming through them. And when they block it with their insecurity, they're blocking something that doesn't belong to them. The universe is using you as a conduit to get it to someone out here.
Right.
And when you block that with your insecurity, it makes the creative person depressed. That was the most profound thing I think I've ever heard. And can you relate now that you're
Oh
older?
yeah. I mean, there's like, cause like that's my creative outlet, that's my thing, and when I can't express that in the way that I want, it does kind of make me a little strange. You have to be able to, and sometimes you have to put down that creative aspect, and sometimes that aspect changes. Sometimes it's not the same creative aspect as it was 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Sometimes it changes. So,
So the zone changes then, or the way you get to the zone
the way
changes?
that you get to the zone changes. The zone never changes.
So as we evolve, we need to find ways to continue to connect with that place.
Right.
That's cool. All right, so I'm going to take a couple of questions here for you, Jared. So,
Oh boy.
okay, so you got Jarred Goldweber here, who's seen more than most kids his age, and he's not a kid, he's a man. But what I want to do is,
Gross.
do you guys, as parents, or do you have any questions that you think Jared might be able to give you some perspective on about your kids, or interests, or creative stuff, or engineering, or any of those things? I'm going to look at this real quick, Jared.
I'm
Oh,
already looking at it. I'm on top of it, Mom.
oh, see, he's so much. Well, he's an engineer. See, I know this stuff because I'm just ignorant enough to try.
You're just pressing enough buttons and I hope it works.
That's pretty much how it works, Jared. Okay, so oh, Sandy Paris is here, Jared.
I know I'm seeing all the comments.
I know, right?
I
Okay.
like Jason's. Hold on, wait. Write a book. I told you I'm in. So that's a
So Jason came in. He said, "I came in at Nazi bikers." That's
I gotta
funny.
play my lotto numbers this week.
No, right?
I know I
Oh,
read that like three times when we were talking about it, and it just made me laugh. It made me chuckle inside.
oh, Jared, you know Sharon Dickey.
Yeah, of course.
Music is therapy. Listening to it and performing it. There's something really cool about it both ways. Oh, Dottie Cooper. Hey, Dottie. All right. Well, if you guys have any questions for Jared, go ahead and post them.
No
Maria did
questions.
your,
Yay.
well, Maria, who made your lovely birthday cake.
Oh, that cake was so good.
We'll say Maria, thank you, Maria.
Thank you, Maria.
So my son isn't into sports at all. He's into video games and chips and Legos. So if you
Can relate.
okay, so
100% can relate.
well, that's not a bad thing. That's a start, right? So
Start.
what would you divine from video games, chips, and Legos? Where would you as a parent put your kid with those interests?
Me as a parent?
Hmm.
I don't know.
Knowing what you know now about chips, Legos, and video games, where would you start as a parent to get them interested in something?
I really do think the big thing is just exposing your kid to everything. Because there's even instances that you won't know about that you'll see and you'll go, oh, that's weird enough just for me to try out. And you just got to go from there. It really does kind of depend. Or, I mean, like, I know a couple people that are professional streamers and professional YouTubers. I mean, that is a thing, as many people don't really get. I mean, like, once you hit, like, you can make a lot of money real fast. So it depends on which route you want to go. It really does. There's a bunch of opportunities, and like, I mean, I'm big into video recording and music recording. I think it's a big thing I'm doing now, and that was always a creative aspect that was underneath a lot of the harmonica stuff I do. So I'm trying to get more out there and trying to do more videos and more stuff like that. So that's been like a hidden weird talent. I used to work for the Cleveland Clinic doing part-time work doing all those food videos. Remember those? I was
Yes,
work with Becca and we would work on those food videos next door. Oh my
that's
God.
fun.
We would like set up the lighting and do the film and I would edit and we got paid for it. It was great. So technology is there's a lot of things that you can do with that technology that moves it forward that I think a lot of people don't realize. I mean, like if your kid's into like the video game stuff, I mean, maybe he doesn't have a computer yet. Maybe like the computer is the next thing because like you can like start doing editing, you can start doing music production, you can start doing a bunch of things. There's a lot of things that you can do. I mean, and the world is a lot different than when it was when I was a kid. I
So
mean,
when so I'm sorry to interject, but so if I was a parent and my kid was into video games, I mean, showing them maybe like coding or how to go
yeah,
online and how to create your own video games or there's so many resources available now that you don't even have to leave your house for. Like so when Jared found the harmonica, he is what we call a YouTube baby, and so he went online.
yeah, and
I
found everything.
and you found all these guys, and this is hilarious. So
And
Jared,
now I teach with them.
I
Like,
know. So Jared would find these guys on YouTube, and he's like, "Mom, you got to come hear this guy." And okay, so I'd hear these guys blowing the harmonica over and over, and Jared would blow, and he
play it
would.
over and over and over and over and over and
So
over
there
again.
were there were five guys in my living room regularly, and one of them was Jason Ritchie, the other one was James
Adam
Conway,
Gusso,
Adam Gusso, and oh,
Ronnie
who else?
Shellis. Ronnie Shellis is
Ronnie
another big one.
Shellist, and well, of course, Wallace Coleman was actually in our house and things like that. So
Yeah,
Jared
Wallace
would get
was
on
like,
YouTube, and then one day Jared said to me, "Mom, they're having a harmonica camp in Indianapolis. Can I go?"
it was
Well, I'm not.
18.
You were
Yeah,
younger.
no, I wasn't. I was eight. No, no, the first time I went to a harmonica camp, I was 16. I went with Dad. That was the very first time I went, and I met Adam Gusso and Ronnie Shellis, who are two very big harmonica YouTubers.
So
Like
these guys were in my living room regularly, and next thing I know, a few years later, I am at these camps with these guys, meeting
meeting
them
them.
in person. I know it was just I mean, I'm riding the elevator with Magic Dick. I mean, like that was like, oh my
That's a phrase
god,
that you should really
right?
remember.
I was riding an elevator with Magic Dick. But it's just fascinating. But how fast that when I just kind of showed you this world, you just jumped in there, and next thing I know, I'm meeting these people, and now you're playing with them, and now you're teaching with them, and it's just fascinating. So that's what I'm saying. People, don't be afraid to expose your kid to new things. The problem is with most parents is that it's pushing you out of your comfort zone. Trust me, we didn't have the money for this stuff. Okay.
No, we did it by the seat of our pants all the time.
And I would rather than buying useless shit, okay, Jared and I talk about this all the time. I would rather create experiences because one day I'm not going to be here anymore. One day I'm not going to be able to go on these adventures with him. And I always saw that as an investment in something as a memory, as a tool that he's going to use later when I'm not here anymore. And we talk about death. Well, when death's your job. I always tell
We
Jared
have
one day
to.
I'm not going to be here, and it's not to be morbid or weird, but I just told him I don't want you missing me so much in this form that you don't recognize me when I'm bugging you from the other side. And and every time you have one of these experiences, you can pull it out of your bag. You'll know that we did that together.
Don't shy away from an experience. I think that's how I'll end it.
All right, well, blow us out of here, dude. Let's give us a little tune.
Sorry, on. Um,
Thank you, honey.
no
Oh,
problem.
do me a favor. So Jared and I would be driving in the car. Okay, harmonica, you keep it anywhere. We can't hear you with that microphone. It sounds really weird with that mic you're using.
I know.
So make your truck noise. Jared makes weird noises.
I can't really do it on this one because it's really low.
Oh, yeah, he would do that when I was driving. I'm like, oh my God, I almost wrecked the car. I can't hear you.
I know. A lot of the harmonicas doesn't come up on this mic. I've learned that in lessons. This is my lessons mic, and my students go, "I can't hear you," and I need a new one. So
Well, you need to just use the mic on the computer, maybe. What do I
it's
know?
yeah.
You're the tech guy.
I'm the tech guy.
Well, I'm gonna actually let Jared go. But what I am gonna do is I want to tell you guys about some crazy, weird, fun astrology that's going on. In case you guys hadn't noticed, there's a lot of roller coaster emotionally, huh, Jared?
Oh yeah.
I know you don't like my woo-woo shit sometimes, but I just have to tell you, you can't ignore it, you
No,
know?
I know. All right. Well, I'm gonna go, and I'm gonna probably eat something and have some brown. There's some brownies staring me in the face. I'm gonna probably have some of those.
Brownies. Well, thank you so much for joining me, honey. I'm so
No
grateful for
problem, Mom.
you and your time today, and I hope to see you soon.
Sounds good.
Thanks for joining me.
All right. I love you.
I love you too, babe.
All right. Bye.
Bye, monkey. He's mad I probably called him monkey on live with everybody. So anyway, so thanks you guys for joining me. That was my son, Jarred Goldweber. And I hope you enjoyed that a little bit. But I did want to tell you guys, this has been a very challenging time. In spite of all the things that are going on in the world right now, you know, there's a lot of really awesome things going on as well. And this is a really great opportunity for all of us to really stop and really look at what it is that what we're giving our energies to. And this is a time of, it's almost like a timeout. Think of it like a timeout. The whole world's getting a timeout, and it's giving us an opportunity to really stop and reflect on where we've been, what we really want, and clearing the road to manifest all the really new and amazing things in our life. So what we're looking at now is there has been some really unbelievable astrology going on, and it's forcing a lot of really painful things into the truth. So, if you guys get a chance, I would recommend going to astrologyking.com and go to the retrogrades, and it's going to explain to you kind of what we're facing right now. And this isn't something to scare you. It's been happening the whole time. It's just that, you know, it's a time of awakening for everybody. And the challenge is for people who have been slowly awakening over the last 20 years, you know, there's not, we've been clearing the road. We've been, manifesting new things. And it's now the people that have not really been awakened before are finally waking up and they don't know what to do. So, this is why us light workers are very important in the world. We're here to help guide people as they're waking up into how to use these spiritual concepts to heal our life, and the experiences that we've had. So that's how I see myself as a spiritual teacher, is that I'm here to take these spiritual concepts and teach you how to apply them in your everyday life so that you become a better human being, not just governed by the, conditioning that you've received, uh, which is usually not great from other people who didn't know what they were doing. So again, as we're all awakening, the truth will set you free, but it will piss you off first, guaranteed. Thank you, Gloria Steinem. And again, that's what we're going to do. Is we're just sticking together, and we're staying inspired by each other. And that's why I want to show you guys different people on here, so you can hear their story. And their stories are just really fascinating. And these are all creative people who are, living their best life. And you can do that too. We just can't be afraid. And the more you align yourself with forward thinking people who aren't reacting, who are proactive, the less there is to fear in life. So I'm going to take a couple of call in readings. If you guys want to give me a call, I'll take the first two or three that call me. My phone number is 216-324-2657. And I will take a couple phone in sessions. Dial my digits, people. So while we're waiting for the phone to ring, I'm definitely looking forward to a class I'm doing tomorrow. I'm doing our dream interpretation class. So if you guys haven't watched it, I would highly recommend that you register for that. If you go onto my website, it's there. And well, it's Nance Simic. How are you?
For the phone to ring. I'm definitely looking forward to a class I'm doing tomorrow. I'm doing our dream interpretation class.
Hey, Nance.
If you guys haven't watched it, I would highly recommend that you register.
Marianne speaking. May I help you?
Hi, this is Mary Melton. I just thought I'd call and see what you got to say.
Well, hey, Mary. How are you?
I'm great. I'm so enjoying your shows.
Oh, thank you so much. They're a lot of fun. I know a lot of really interesting people. So,
you know a lot of interesting things, and your son is amazing.
oh, thank you. Thank you. So, your mother's here, and she says you got to stop worrying about dumb stuff.
Really?
So if you can see, if God is faith, then what would fear be? Right? If God is faith, then fear would be the devil, right? Or the dark thing.
Right, or the lack of God.
Or the lack of God. Exactly. Okay, so when we're afraid, what are we aligning with?
Well, not with God.
Exactly. So, God knows, the universe knows more than we do. It can see down the road. We're down here trapped in this human living, seeing it a little bit at a time. So that's why when we don't know where we're going or we don't know what to do, we've got to let go and let God, because there is purpose in all of it.
Yep, I agree 100%.
And while we're afraid, we're obviously not doing the things that we can be doing.
Right.
So why don't you make it? So mom
You're
said,
listening.
your mom's so cute. She's like, go make a to-do list and get busy.
No, that's a good idea.
Well, sometimes you got to dump it out of your head and put it on paper to bring it
Yeah.
bring it kind of into the physical world.
I do that every now and then. It's been a while since I did, and I should
Well,
do
and
that.
she's like, is there something weird going on with like her tombstone or the cemetery?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, well, anyway, she's like, we don't care about that stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Once you leave this physical body, you're really very detached from the material aspects of this world.
So, actually, my husband and I talked about this today a little bit. We had a friend, we were having a discussion about when you die, we want to be cremated, but people still pay for the grave and the tombstone, and it's like a place for your kids to go to see you.
Right.
But
So
if it's-
cemeteries are actually, they're places of memorial. And so they're a place where we can go and remember. But honestly, that doesn't have to be a cemetery. That can
That's what
be
we were kind of talking about, is why spend that money and take that space on the earth up forever,
right,
but I think it's tradition. I think we were
right.
raised that you got that place to go and see where, talk to your grandma or talk to whoever.
Well,
I
and
guess it's just
and
tradition.
it's really a personal thing, but I personally love cemeteries. Okay, not that I
I
would
do
expect
too.
my kid to put up a big tombstone and make some memorial,
No,
but
but I love walking through cemeteries and reading the stones and trying to imagine those people's lives.
exactly. So,
Yeah.
so that's what it's really for. It's really for posterity. And so again, that's a personal choice, but yes, and turning remains is very important. It doesn't matter where you do it. As long as you let go of remains and
Yeah.
that, you do it in an honorable way for the living,
Yeah.
that's who it's
Yeah.
for. It's really for the living. Okay? Mom's
Yeah.
waving. You
Thanks.
got to make halupki or something. Are you Polish?
No.
What
No.
nationality are you guys?
Mostly Irish.
Oh, okay. She
A little
said you
bit
got
of
to make
everything.
something like dumplings or something. You got to make some dish she used to make.
Okay.
And so, yeah, get on that, Mary.
Okay.
Well, thanks for calling in, honey.
Well, thank you, Mary.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Hi, Nance. You got to put your computer on mute.
That's my problem.
Yeah, because I
Okay.
can't hear you, and I will hang up on you.
It's okay, not a problem.
Okay. Are we muted now? So what can I do for you, my friend?
Hi, Marianne. Sorry about that. I kind of screwed up. So yeah, with all this stuff that's going retrograde right now, I'm getting like really crazy and emotional, which is really hard for me being a Gemini.
Yes. It's much harder for
So
Geminis because you're not used to all that. You're used to putting everything in little boxes. Well, somebody went and moved all the boxes around.
yeah, and it's like been really hard because like you said, I'm in the process of pitching and moving out of 47 years out of this house into another house, and it's finally coming to fruition, and I'm like freaking out
Okay.
about it.
Well, first of all, is there a hurry? Is there a reason why you have to hurry?
No,
Okay.
thank God, it'll probably take about a month to do
Well,
it all.
well, what I would recommend is pace yourself. Just do what you can. And again, it's an ebb and flow. So there's a lot of things retrograde right now. So, which means that there's a lot of truth, there's a lot of karma, there's a lot of spiritual awakening going on right now. And it's really hard to navigate through all that energy. So I would recommend smudging your space I would just do a little bit at a time rather than trying to do it in one fell swoop. So when you do pack, do one little thing at a time. But I would recommend, yeah, you got to really pace yourself because it's like moving through quicksand right now. And so it's really about reflecting too. So whatever's coming up for you, give it a voice. Write your emotion out and throw it away. Burn it, take it out in the yard and let it go and get down to the truth. But you got to let what you're feeling out. Some of it isn't yours. Some of it, again, this is where we take those tools, Nance, and we take the salt shower. We process our emotion on paper. We have to pull these tools out now more than ever and use them. Okay?
Yeah, that's what my issue was.
Okay.
I just didn't know what to do. I just know that my emotions are driving me right now, and that's so unusual since I'm more practical, and I'm not really good at handling it.
Well, exactly. So that's why we got to take that toolbox out and really start using those tools that we're given because they really work.
Okay.
All right, kiddo. I love you. Have a great day.
Thank you. Love you too.
Bye. This is Marianne.
Hi, Marianne. This is Rick Lentz. How you doing?
I'm good, Rudy. How are you?
Good. Hey, I just wanted to make a comment.
Yes.
When Jared was saying about when you're playing music and you get in that like, well, as you put it, zone,
Right.
I can do that so easy. My wife says like when I go to bed, I can just lay there and not think of anything.
Yeah. See, some people
I'm
also.
completely blank.
I'm sorry, Rudy, to interrupt.
No, that's okay. I just said I could just make my mind blank and not really have to think of anything.
Well, God bless you. Okay, most people have to weed through a ton of shit to do that. See, I can do that too, Rudy. So,
Okay.
so chances are you're a very fluid sign. So the most fluid signs of the zodiac are Pisces, Scorpio, Virgo, Libra, Cancer, and Aquarius. Okay, you're Virgo, right?
Yep.
So see, that creative place is so much easier for us than this human world. This human world's a lot of work. It's got time, it's
Right.
got, people, it's got all these energies. And the other side, like when you're in that zone, that's like, being halfway to the other side. It's so peaceful there that's why people want to just twirl off and be there all the time. Because this human
Right.
world is full of energy and chaos and stuff. And yeah, I can go there like in a blink. In a blink. I always told Jared
That's
I
what
could
I feel like.
channel in a bus stop. I mean, really. So, yeah, so thank you for that, Rudy. But there's a lot of factors that make you more intuitive than, so that's that intuitive place. That's where music comes from. That's where that inspiration comes from. And so, if you'll take a poll of most musicians, especially the improvisational ones, most of them are those fluid signs. Okay. And then a lot of them have also had some kind of trauma. Okay. Trauma makes you more intuitive as well. So early trauma makes you way more intuitive because you had to intuit as a survival skill.
Okay.
And that's why a lot of work I do is with people who have been had some trauma in their life. Because we
Okay.
have to learn not to notice so much energy. We used to have to intuit, So
Right.
again, yeah, no, yeah, you can go to that place real easy. Are you a musician?
Yes.
Awesome. Do you know Jared?
No.
Oh, no kidding. Yeah, well, he's pretty well known here in the music scene, but yeah,
Well,
exactly.
he actually
So,
sent me some of his videos.
oh, did I? Oh, okay, that's
Yeah.
cool. That's cool. So, yeah, so anyway, that's why you can do that because it comes more naturally than being human.
Okay.
That's why you attract weirdos, Rudy.
I
Virgos.
can believe that.
Okay, so Virgos are the codependent sign of the zodiac. Okay, they attract the
Okay.
biggest weirdos ever because they want to help them.
Okay.
So you're like a weirdo magnet. The biggest weirdo in the room will tell you their whole life story.
True.
That's me too. No, really, I could just sit there, and before you know it, the biggest weirdo walks up to me and tells me everything. So yeah, so that's part of your Virgo-ness.
And then like what you were saying about fear, I really don't have fear. No, I'll have worry, like I worry about my wife, I worry about my kids, just the normal, that kind of stuff. But as far as being afraid of stuff, I'm not.
Well, worry is a form of fear, and fear is lack of faith. So yeah, we all have concerns. I would like to rather use the word worry. I do have concerns, but not things that make me afraid. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I totally agree. But you're also a man, okay? And men are much better at shutting off some of that emotion that comes with fear. They're better at it.
Okay.
I don't know. It's because you guys are more visual and you trust what you see. And a lot of times for women, we trust what we feel before we trust what we see. So when we feel everything, I'm feeling yours, mine, the Walmart, everything, and so it's hard to discern which is which. So that's why fear and concern and worry is a different factor because of this female body. And men are just
Okay.
more pragmatic because they cut through emotion quite frequently and see things much more visually. So if you don't see anything to fear, again, that abstract fear you would call it concern, and everybody has concern. But when
Right.
concern turns to worry and worry turns to fear, that's a whole nother thing. So, yeah, good for you, you Virgo person, you.
Thanks.
I love fluid people. When we get creatives together, it's always fun. Because they don't really care about the time and the stuff like that. That's not part of their. They just like that swirly place. I love people who want to hang out in the swirly place. It's so much nicer there, isn't it? Isn't it?
Yes.
So
It is.
good. Yeah, but I also have learned how to be a better human too. So I don't take this whole world so personally anymore. So, well, thank you so much. Oh, and Rudy, your dad's is your dad passed? He's waving at you.
Yes.
He's waving
Oh,
at you.
thanks.
He's thumping his chest and he's so proud of you.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, he's very proud of you. Yeah. So anyway, just want to send you off with that. Thanks for calling tonight.
Okay, thanks.
Bye-bye now.
All right, bye.
Marianne speaking. You're
Marianne.
you're live on air.
How are you?
I'm good. Who is this?
This is Kim Tony.
Oh, hi Kim. Didn't we just talk?
Yes, we did.
Okay. What can I do for you?
Oh, I just wondered if there's anything new.
Not today. I just talked to you, what, 2 days ago?
I don't know, last week.
Last week? Yeah, no. Are you doing what they told you to do last week?
I don't know.
They don't give you new messages till you do the ones they already gave you.
Yeah. No, I really didn't have anything to do.
I'm sorry, what, honey?
I said I didn't really have anything that I needed to do.
Oh, I don't know. I don't remember what we talk about, but your mother says you need a new mop.
Okay.
Is your mom passed?
Yes.
So this is what dead people talk about. Okay.
Yes,
You need a new mop. I don't know what that means. Do you?
no.
Well, call me back and let me know. It's probably something really funny. You'll see later.
Yeah.
You might go in the closet and your mop's gone.
Huh.
And and you're like, Mom stole my mop. Like, that's funny. So anyway, so there's a joke about a mop.
Okay.
You think about that.
My son, he's the one that used this cat 2 weeks ago today.
Yes. I'm so sorry.
Anything from him at all?
Kim, I can't talk to you about that right now.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
All right, sweetheart. I'll talk to you more about that tomorrow.
Okay.
All right, honey. All right, well,
Tell him to give you the PIN number to his phone.
oh,
Get in.
it's actually really simple. All right, honey, I'll call you back tomorrow.
Okay.
All right,
Thank you.
all right, Kim, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, kids, that was fun. Thank you so much for calling in. And, oh, I got one more. Let me take one more real quick, and then we're going to hang up. This is Marianne. I'm sorry. Say that again.
This is Jill.
Hi, Jill.
Jill Summer. Hi.
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. It was such a treat seeing Jarred when I met him when he was what 8 or 10.
I know, right? Isn't that funny?
Yeah, he's a very well-spoken young man now.
Well, thank you. Yeah, he's done a lot of growing up. That's for sure.
Oh yeah.
Aw, what can I do for
And
you tonight?
I'm sorry about Gibby. I wanted to ask you. I rescued a dog and then he bit me and I had to give him back. And
Yeah.
I was wondering if that was the right decision.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, and again, I think that well, it was really interesting, and I get stuff, and I don't call people up and tell them, But honestly, Jill, it's about making room for other things in your life. So you really don't need all those responsibilities right now.
Cool.
Okay, so let's just leave space in our life for other things. I don't think it's time for you to have another pet right now. Anyway.
Yeah, I was getting to that feeling myself, so.
Good. Okay, well, good. Then that's a confirmation for what you already know then.
Exactly, and we'll talk about the hot dog that came into life on Saturday or Sunday when I'm in your class on the weekend.
Okay, sounds good. Well, yeah,
Sure.
the dream interpretation class is, the relationships class. That's coming this weekend.
Class.
Oh my God, that class is awesome. You'll
I'm
see.
looking forward to it.
Me too. Well, thank you, Jill, for calling. I miss you.
I miss you too. This is fun. Thank you so much.
Have a great night.
You too.
Bye-bye. All right, kids. Well, we're going to wrap up. So again, tie a knot in the end of your rope and hang on because this has been quite a ride. But again, a lot of things are coming into the truth. So don't be impatient. It's really interesting. Jared and I learned to live with less. We never had a lot of money to buy a lot of useless stuff. And our life was always filled with serving and just hanging out with people and just creating experiences. And so, a lot of people aren't liking that right now. They don't know what to do with themselves if they're not buying useless shit and they're not eating out every night. And so again, I think so people that are not used to those things are doing really okay with some of this stuff. We're used to not having a lot of money or not a lot of things to do because of that. And so again, some of the people that are having the hardest time with this are people that have never had those kinds of experiences. And so I really feel sorry for them because this is very painful. But for those of us who have survived things, this isn't the worst thing that has happened to me, by the way, and or a lot of folks. And so, we've learned to do with less on some level, and kind of weather these things a little differently. So let's use this time to do proactive things, not reactive things. And again, what you want isn't always what you need. And so the universe is definitely giving us what we need right now. And we have to learn to be patient and let go and let God. So if you guys aren't in a good place, call somebody. Call me. Call. There's a lot of recovery resources if you guys need that. And if you're feeling lonely, reach out. That's why I'm doing this live thing so that we can talk and keep connected. So, you guys are my village, and I really love you all very much. So, if you have any other questions, don't hesitate to give me a call. Again, my number is 216-324-2657. And you can also just find me on my website, which is mariannegoldweber.com. I have a dream interpretation class tomorrow night. For those of you that have been asking for that, just go onto my website under events and you'll see the Zoom link to register for that. Saturday, I'm doing my hot dog and steak class, which we call Defining Our Relationships. So, if you guys are trying to figure out how to build healthier and more meaningful relationships in your life, whether that's romantic, work, friends, whatever, this class is really a wonderful opportunity to really get some definitions on what that's about. So, defining our relationships, and it's one of my favorite classes. It's a real eye opener, that's for sure. So, thank you again for joining me tonight, and Jared, thank you so much for joining your crazy mother on here, and you're a trooper. And so, if you guys have any questions for me or Jared, don't hesitate to reach out and leave him some information on here if you have any questions, and I'm sure he'll jump on and answer you. So, thanks again. I hope you guys have a really blessed night, and know that we're out here taking care of each other, and it takes a village. So, thanks again. I hope you guys have a really great evening.